because they knew that every time I went into a meeting, if anything dropped on their part, I was taking the heat for it. I would take the heat and then come back and say, I took the heat on this, guys. We can't do this again.
Welcome back to Mirror Talk's Soulful Conversations, where we dive deep into the truths, experiences, and transformations that shape who we are. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a leadership advisor of developing authentic leaders and the founder of Authentic Leader. From history and from nearly 3 decades, she has worked at the intersection of corporate life and human transformation, guiding leaders beyond titles and authority into the realm of authenticity, integrity, and impact. She believes that true leadership is rare, but desperately needed in our world today. Our mission is to equip the next generation of leaders with the courage and clarity to lead from a place of genuine self-awareness. Our story is one of resilience, faith, and wisdom, shaped by growing up on a pig farm, navigating personal trials, and working with her father through a miraculous recovery from terminal cancer. She now brings those lived lessons into her work, helping people become the kind of leaders they themselves always wish they had. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I am doing very well, and it's a privilege and an honor to be on your show too.
Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation all the way from Canada. And I'm already looking forward to visiting the Rocky Mountains that are not far away from me already. Having pictures of it in my head right now after you told me about it, like, oh my God, okay. I can get that picture of my head. I want to really visit the Rocky Mountains in Canada very soon.
Yes, you have to.
Yes, I have to. But for now, before I plan my trip to Canada, I really want to learn so much about authentic leadership from you. But before we go into all of that, and also learning from your personal story, you helping your father recover from terminal cancer. I would love to hear that story also. But before we jump into that, I would love us to play a game of wild cards just to, get to know you a little bit better, just to break the ice a little bit. And that's why our first level is icebreakers. Even though from experience, some icebreakers questions are very, very deep and very uncomfortable. Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready to play the game?
Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. So right now I'm shuffling the cards, and you might not see me shuffling the cards, but believe me, I'm shuffling them under the table and right now in front of the camera. And I just pick a card randomly from the middle. I don't know what question I will ask you. I might have asked the question before, but let's go. Okay. What is the first thing you think of when you say I love?
First thing when I think of when I say I love
The first thing you
is,
think of, yeah.
especially if I'm telling somebody I love them,
Yes.
is that I don't want them to ever think that if something were to happen to me or to them, that I want them to know that I love them. And I don't want anything else from them. It's just that peace of knowing our last thing that we said to each other was, I love you.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful. Oh, that's so beautiful. Like unconditional love, and also making them rest assured that you truly love them no matter what. And even if that's the
Yeah.
last thing you say to each other, they should be rest assured that it's true that you truly love them.
Yes. And so I say it to my friends and my family, just so that they know that's the last thing I leave them with is, I love you.
That's so lovely. Thanks so much for the answer. I love the answer. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
So this is the confessions question. And the question is, what have you done that you are not proud of?
Ooh.
Where?
I think one of the things, it was early on in my life when I had just graduated high school and I was going to university, and I got kicked out of university because I didn't apply myself and my grade point average was down. And so I had to then refigure out what my next move was going to be for my career and my life.
Yeah. Or you came out of that and you're standing right and shining right now. That's good.
Yeah. And I later went and got a degree later on in life. So I did get my degree.
Yeah. I love that, because you didn't allow that setback, to be like, okay, that's the end of it for you. I'm not getting a degree anymore. Yeah. You went back
Yeah.
and got a degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Are you ready for the last question?
Yes.
So this is the getting deep question. And it says, or the question is, when you asked, when asked, how are you? How often do you answer truthfully?
I think it depends on who it is, because most people don't want the truth. They would prefer it if you didn't share what was really going on. And it depends on the person. If it's somebody that one of my good friends or close family member, I will tell them how things are actually going.
Mm, yeah, I like the answer because I can relate to it also. Sometimes I don't want to burden people or burden people with whatever I'm going through. So I just say the very plain and very surface truth, which is I'm fine. Because no matter
Yeah.
what I'm going through, I believe I am fine. Or I'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't need to know because they're not close enough to know what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Sometimes you don't share everything with everybody. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Talking about going through things and being fine, I'd like us to dive into your story. You know, your story is one of resilience, like I said earlier, and faith also. And I'm just intrigued. I'm very interested in learning about how it is like for you to grow up on a pig farm, and helping your father, working through with him a miraculous recovery from terminal cancer, and now being here where you are today. How did that life journey look like for you to now? How was that like for you?
So growing up in a pig farm, we had to do a lot of chores and work. So that taught me determination and drive to keep pushing forward. But having a pig farm, that actually drove me to go and find a career outside of the farming industry because that wasn't where I wanted to be. It's
Okay.
not quite what I had dreams and passions for.
Hmm.
And so from there, I started to grow. I went to university to start and got kicked out, and then went to college and took a different stream where I actually started out as a receptionist in my career and then grew from that and grew into leading teams, doing project management, becoming team leader, and growing in my career through that. And it was in about 5 years ago. Actually, it is exactly 5 years ago, but with my dad. But prior to that, I was trapped in leadership chaos. So reporting to a hands-off director who provided no structure, a micromanager who cut me off from essential business contracts, and a lazy boss who took credit for my work while I protected my own team from the dysfunction swirling around us. And just as I started questioning my own leadership identity, everything exploded. The new leadership swept in with massive egos and even more toxic behaviors. And then my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was only given 5 to 6 months. And so my world was spinning out of control at a breakneck speed. And I hit rock bottom and started struggling with PTSD from the relentless micromanagement, functioning like an automation with my emotions completely suppressed. I no longer recognized the person staring back at me in the mirror. That protective mirror or that protective armor I built around myself had formed with startling speed. And I kept everyone at arm's length and shifted into pure survival mode and took on the role of the family's immovable foundation. I was the rock, the person everyone turned to when things fell apart. And then there was the moment that shattered my world and that I had constructed with a close family member over the phone said, Jennifer, be careful not to become so disconnected you lose sight of who you are and stop caring about the people around you. And that moment, those words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me both angry and deeply unsettled. I carried that statement with me for days, then weeks, turning it into over in my mind like a puzzle I couldn't solve. And that anger came from what felt like unfair accusation. Wasn't I caring for everybody? Wasn't I their rock and their constant support? But then the revelation struck me with clarity. I had become as cold and unyielding as the rock I had made myself into. And
Hmm.
in my determination to handle everything efficiently, I had stopped seeing people around me as individuals with their own pain and needs. And I was bulldozing through situations, making decisions without considering the other's needs in the process to feel heard and to be part of the journey rather than just the passengers in my whole plan.
Hmm.
And so recognizing that, that allowed me to change my responses and behaviors. But this breakthrough also revealed that I was so busy fixing everybody else's world that I was neglecting myself. And as I acknowledged that and I went and sought counseling for it, that's when the armor started to fall off and I started to discover who I truly was and what I needed to do to be an authentic leader. And so
Yeah.
through that process, people saw that. And two of my friends said, Jennifer, you know what? You're coming out and you've been through the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's time to write a book. And you've done leadership for years and you've been mentoring individuals. So let's go write a book. And that's where Authentic Leader, the whole structure came from, and the company and organization as well.
Yeah.
And my dad, to finish off the story with my dad,
Yeah.
he, at 3.5 years, he was finally given another MRI, and the doctors came back and said, there's no cancer. We can see remnants of where it was, but there's no cancer anymore. And you didn't have medical intervention. You didn't take chemo or radiation. So we can't explain why it happened.
Hmm. That's a miracle.
Yes.
That's a great miracle. That's awesome. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, when you're talking about, you dealing with a lot of situations and things, and that led you to, keeping people at arm's length. You became as cold as the rock, and you were not realizing that people around you were humans anymore. I mean, I could relate with that in some ways, like from myself and also other people's story that I've learned about also, you know, sometimes when we are in this survivor mode, I don't know, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong. When we're in this survivor mode, we just, keep on pushing and we become blind, or I'll say narrow minded, or basically we don't think about every other person as human beings anymore. We're just like, okay, how do I pull through out of this situation at the moment? But I'll just like to ask from your experience, basically, like when one is in such a situation where one is trying to pull through and survive, are there things we could mindfully do in order to still consider other people as human in that moment?
It's really tough to do, but because you almost become robotic and you disconnect.
Mm.
And so it's when you start to do that, you do need outside source to pull you out. And that was a huge struggle because once I recognized that, then I started involving everybody back in, but I still hadn't dealt with me.
Mm. Dealing with one has to deal with oneself, like process one's feelings, one's emotion, and yeah.
And I had to figure out who I was again. What was
Mm.
my identity? Because my identity now was the rock in the family. But
Mm.
is that truly what my identity is?
Yeah, that's a big question. And what was the answer for you? Why are you the rock of the family truly, or you are more than that, or you are something else when you discovered
I'm
who you
still
are?
the rock of the family, but at a very different level, a little more squishy, not as solid. But
Yeah.
I had to start putting up boundaries to protect myself because I wasn't protecting me and I was getting lost in the whole situation, just the environment. And so by setting up boundaries and saying, okay, I now need to take 2 days a week for me. I need to now separate myself and spend some quiet time to start to fill my cup because it is completely dry and it's breaking.
I love that. I'm going on with that from this conversation. Intentionally take time out for yourself to find out who you are and fill your cup up, because if you don't fill it up, it's gonna be empty and break. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I would like to switch over to your career. You're working as a project manager and experiencing all these bosses, and now you're writing your book. And we were talking about it briefly before we started recording. And I love the format that you make use of, like having just going straight to the point, having a bullet point, and having one part of it that's very important to me, or I find very, very good, is the reflection part, like we were talking about earlier, that you could write something and reflect on it for the week, basically. I find that very, very intriguing. I don't know if you could tell us briefly about your book and I know the inspiration behind it already because they shared that during the story, but you could talk about it more and you know just the listeners out there, tell them how they could benefit from reading Developing Authentic Leaders.
So the whole premise around the book was when I was mentoring other leaders, there was nothing out there to support me and to do the basic topics that I felt were important. So I started writing a little bit before my world crashed and then had stopped and put it on the burner for a time being. And so then when my friends came and said, you need to go write this book, I sat down and got serious about it. And that's when I did it in bullet points because busy leaders, they don't have time to read all the fluff in there and they want, just give me the meat. And so I tried to give the meat. And then I set it up so that it can be insight. Every topic is insight, guidance, and reflection so that you can do it as an individual, or you can do it with an accountability partner or a mentor, or you can even use it as a team. And you can go through one topic a week for a year. And the whole premise is looking at who you are as an authentic individual and just understanding, because there's a chapter on priorities and understanding how to do priorities and who are your priorities and what are another chapters on your expectations of yourself. Are they realistic? And going through and looking at that and then looking at some characteristics of an authentic leader with vulnerability, humility, discernment with knowledge, and looking at how do you deal with hurt and walking yourself through dealing with hurt. And then looking at your communication style and how to be effective at communication. And then there's another section on influencing your team and how to do that. And then there's another section on what makes or breaks leaders that could easily be resolved. And that's like having a mission, vision, values for your team.
And vision values for a team. Yeah, awesome. I'm getting an answer to your question I'm about to ask. It's because it's still on my mind right now. I'm just going to ask you anyways, because I know you've observed that most people encounter fewer than two exceptional leaders in their careers. And for me, for example, I find that very very disappointing. And I want to be an exceptional leader to anybody that, crosses my path in life, as much as I want to experience exceptional leaders too in my lifetime or my career. So I just want to learn, like, picking up your book and from everything I've experienced also, I'd just like to learn, what do you think separates those real leaders from the many who simply hold the titles? And what can I do as a person, not just to hold the title, but to really be that exceptional leader?
Foundationally, you need to understand yourself. And so you need to build that self-awareness to understand. And I like to use assessment tools for this to really help people. And that's to understand what you're like when you're most comfortable and at home. And we look at 24 qualities and we look at home. And then we also look at what you're like every day, what you present to the world and what you allow society to see with those same 24 qualities. And then we look at what happens when you're overextended or stressed, because personalities change. And then we look at a journey to composure where we take those areas that may pop up when you're stressed, like, for instance, becoming argumentative, and bringing those, instead of being argumentative in a meeting, how can you change some of your behaviors and tap into your strengths and your hidden talents and go, maybe if I change and start become more collaborative, I'll see different results, which you will likely see. Just changing your approach helps build your team. And that's also going to create a huge level of trust. And if you understand your team as well, then what their strengths and weaknesses are, that's going to better equip you to communicate with them in a manner that they appreciate. And it's understanding how each team member works. And as you do that, your team is going to develop and become much more innovative and forward thinking, which increases profitability. Hello, corporations, you want to work on your middle management because they're your next generation and they're going to be creative for you, which I love.
Yeah, that's true. I love what you say right now about, dealing with each individual in your team as individuals, basically, like, understanding who they are. First of all, understanding who you are, understanding who I am as a person, Toby, and then understanding the members of my team, like knowing their strengths, their weaknesses, and knowing how to deal with them, not deal with them, work with them in order to bring out the best for the team, bring out the best for the team. Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Because I have a marketing individual on my team
Yeah,
who I'm not going to stick her with figuring out how to resolve technical issues. I want her to focus on doing what she's an expert at. And if she's fantastic at the marketing and designing documents and doing all that, that's what I'm going to give her
yes.
because she's going to be awesome at it. Why would I give her my bookkeeping to do?
She's just going to struggle with it and be less productive about it.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm be frustrated also. That could be, yeah,
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Wow. So are there other tips I should know, or tools I could make use of in order to become an exceptional leader? What do I do when it comes to crucial conversations? If I want to be an exceptional leader, but I want to be able to handle crucial conversations with emotional intelligence, or properly, so that everyone comes out of it maybe not harmed or insulted or something like that.
So that's where you need to understand your team and what their communication style is. But I think the struggle that people have is they don't want to do the crucial conversations because they don't want to deal with conflict. And it's scary. But at the same time, if you don't deal with the conflict, you're going to have bigger issues and you're going to eventually have to deal with the conflict. So the best solution is to just go and have a calm conversation and try and do it in a way that is positive, where you say, hey, you're doing really great in this area, but in this area, I don't know if you know, but it's not one of your strengths. And so I'd love to support you in getting that to where you can handle it. And that's only one conversation, but there's many other conversations that you can dealing with conflict
Yeah.
where you might have to say, you know what, this just isn't working out.
Hmm.
But if you have those crucial conversations and you deal with them very quickly and upfront, you're going to gain greater respect and trust and loyalty from your team.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It all boils down back to knowing who your team members are and yeah, yeah, how they react to things or respond to things, and also how you could converse with them on different topics. And don't shy away from confrontation is one thing I'm hearing also. Don't shy away from confrontations.
That's going to be your downfall as a leader,
Hmm.
honestly and truthfully, because people don't respect that. And, you get the nicknames like Teflon Turtle because nothing sticks and they're slow to make good decision and they don't want to deal with things.
That's true. That's true. I've heard that before, some places. So, you earlier talked about, knowing who we truly are as a leader. Like, it's very important for us to know who you truly are, what you stand for, your values. But, sometimes we find ourselves in organizations or in corporate bodies. And, a lot of leaders then start struggling with image, authority, or fitting into the corporate molds, wherever they find themselves. So how do you guide people into stripping back those layers and then reconnecting with who they truly are? Like, once they find themselves in such a situation or corporate body, how can we strip back a little bit all those layers and then reconnect with who we are?
So then you might discover that the organization you're with isn't a
Mm,
fit anymore because you have now set what your priorities are, you've set what your boundaries are, you have your mission, vision, values, and unless the organization is willing to work with you, because I've worked in the oil and gas industry and it's still the authoritative viewpoint of leadership. And so it's slowly changing, and we need to change because of what's coming in the world and what we're dealing with. But if an organization doesn't want to change or support how you do it and don't see the value, then you may have to go and find another organization that does.
so, oh yeah. So okay. If the organization does not fit anymore to your values because they've changed things, or they just policies have become different or don't fit with what you think or you believe are your values right now, then it's better for you to just leave. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes I always think you could be the one to change things, be the one to fight the corporate and make them change their way of you know, going about things or operations. But sometimes it's better to just leave and find a better fit for yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes you can stay and make the change and prove it, but not all organizations are going to be accepting of that. And so it's just doing that reality check.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. What are like some of the most practical or actionable strategies that you give to emerging leaders who want to grow authentically?
One of the big tips I say is don't try and do big bang. Don't try and do all of it at once. Start doing practical little baby steps to help you deal with different situations. If you are a micromanager, let's talk about that. Let's change some of your behaviors, such as, and this is going to kill a lot of project managers, or sorry, micromanagers, is you don't need to get CC'd on all the emails. You don't need to sit in all the meetings. You need to be updated once a week, or if there's something going on, it could be daily, but you need to take a step back and allow your team to actually grow and function
Hmm.
and trust your team, because too many leaders don't trust their team, and you need to. And so if you're emerging, we would do a lot of different steps to get you to where you need to go. And it could be working through the book. It could be working on different situations to help you. It could be dealing with crucial conversations. How do we do that? Start practicing. I've got tools on my website to help you with conversations.
Hmm.
So go and take them. They're free. Go take them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll place the link to your website in the show notes of this episode for anyone who's interested in that. So they could just, start taking it right now. Maybe after listening to this conversation, they could just click on the link or copy the link to your website and start practicing those. I mean, I love what you talked about, trusting your team members, because it could be a big challenge sometimes. Maybe at the earliest stage of forming the team, because maybe there are a lot of projects you're working on, for example, and you want it to progress. You want it to, you want the progress to be fast or rapid, or you want to meet up with the deadlines, basically, and you don't know how this new team member is going to function or not. How do you deal with all this uncertainty and pressing deadlines and still at the same time wanting to believe or trust your team members to deliver what they have to deliver? Because sometimes there's always this conflict of deadline is unrealistic actually, but and you have to distribute the task among your team members and you want to leave them to do their work at their own pace, but at the same time you want to be updated so that in case there's you know anything that's going wrongly, you can be able to quickly interfere. Yeah.
So that's where I actually, when I was doing a lot of project management, would actually get my team to tell me what their deadlines were, because they're the subject matter experts. And this is a
Mm,
great way to build your team too, is sit down with your team and get them to tell you the tasks that they have to do, how much time it's going to take. And then you also let them know we have this deadline. So what do we need to do to make it? And once you start relying on your team to help be the solution, they're going to tell you what it's going to take and what they can do to make sure they meet the timeline as best they can. And they may come up with solutions that you don't even think about. And so by allowing your team to come to the table and tell you, you're now creating you're actually being very influential with your team, because now they feel heard. They feel like they have input into what's going to happen next. They know where the goalpost is. They're going to do whatever it takes to get there. And sometimes you might have to bribe them with food to work a little harder. Bring them pizza, bring them chocolate, whatever they like, bring it to them so that they feel motivated to keep going, because you're treating them too.
okay, motivate them.
Yeah. Because I had one team that was about 3 weeks behind schedule, and they had picked out their timelines, but they didn't come to me to negotiate and say, Jen, we can't make our timelines. So in a meeting, I said, you told me, because we did that whole working session where we worked through to figure out what it would take and the timelines. So tell me what it's going to take for us to get caught up and get it done. And so I gave them 2 weeks, and said, get us all caught up, plus finish your tasks for the last 2 weeks. And then I will bring you whatever you want for lunch. And they were like, really? And I didn't think they were going to make it, honestly and truthfully. They did. They did, because they didn't want to be the last man. Nobody wanted to be the one that caused them not to get their food. And even one individual said to me, well, Jen, I've got all my tasks done, so I don't need to do anything. And I said, well, this is actually where you can help your teammates and say, hey, what can I do to help you so that you can be successful? Like, is it your day-to-day job that I could take a couple things off to help you so that you can finish? And they were like, okay. And I would even say, okay, guys, I don't know how to do all of the details, but if there's anything administrative that you need, I will help you. And so then that was a whole team environment that brought them together. And wouldn't you know it, deadlines were never a problem.
That's beautiful. Being there for your team and relying on them to deliver what they have to deliver, motivating them also, like asking them for their deadlines and supporting them to actually achieve what they plan to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll
Yeah.
be amazed at how they raise to the challenge if you just trust them and allow them to do it their way, not your way, their way.
Their way. Yes. And no one is going to say no to free lunch. So yes.
No.
Oh yeah. Wow. So I want to learn from you, from your journey, because your own journey involved leading high accountability teams without traditional authority. So from that experience of yours, I would like to also learn, what lessons did you learn about influence, about collaboration, and about, you talked about this already, but about respect in those environments?
So that's where I did a lot of that planning, where I involved the team and got them involved. I think another big area is admitting when I made a mistake and saying, guys, I made a mistake here. I'm really sorry. I don't know how to fix this. And I was leading the team. And the team's like, no, Jen, we've got this. We'll help you. And they will surround you and help you be successful too. Because they knew that every time I went into a meeting, if anything dropped on their part, I was taking the heat for it. I would take the heat and then come back and say, I took the heat on this, guys. We can't do this again. But I would never blame them for it. It was failure, then it was on my part, because I wanted them to be successful and keep motivated. And that brought huge amounts of respect and loyalty. And even to this day, I get people that say, Jen, you were the best project manager I ever had.
Wow.
And so when you get that, then you're like, I did make a difference.
I'm asking myself right now, why do a lot of people shy away from admitting, or a lot of leaders shy away from admitting that they are wrong? Even when it's so obvious that they are wrong, they've made the wrong decision, why do they find it difficult to admit it?
Because they don't want to be held accountable for it. And they think vulnerability is a weakness. And it isn't. It actually makes you human, and it actually gains so much respect for it. I've watched it in my own career where people, as soon as I've said that, I've got a whole loyal following now. And if I ever needed somebody on a project team, they'd be like, we'll go. We'll work with Jen. So it's when you make mistakes, admit it, because it's much more regarded. And I know a leader who said, I never made a mistake. He was a president of an organization. And he's like, I've never made a mistake. And I'm like, well, there's your first one.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Admit it when you're wrong, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Yeah. So one thing that was coming up for me was sometimes people think, some leaders think that once they are vulnerable, their team members will not take them seriously anymore, because it's like, oh, is it not Jennifer, for example, name is your name as an example. She makes mistake. I can't take her seriously anymore because she's not perfect, or she does not know what she's doing, or she's not up to the task of being a leader.
Hey, we're all human. We all make mistakes. So why not admit them? Because it's going to make you a better person for it. And you're going to find out how loyal your team actually is. There is that fine line of manipulation if somebody's going to cry, because that's manipulation. You don't need that. You need that humble, honest, hey, I blew it.
Mm.
And what I've seen is people want to ring me out when I've said I've made a mistake. It takes the wind out of their sail, and they're like, she's just acknowledged it and is taking accountability. I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't yell at her.
Yeah. Nobody's going to yell at you and say, "Oh, you're a bad leader for making that mistake or making mistakes at all." Yeah.
I'd like to meet anybody who hasn't made a mistake in their life.
I don't think there's anybody that's not made a mistake before.
No. So just be okay with it. We're human. And it actually, if you say I make a mistake, your team members will actually come to you quicker and say, I made a mistake on this. And they're not going to try and hide it. And I'd rather a team member come to me and make a mistake, and then we go and deal with it and say, okay, well, let's figure out how we can resolve this and get back on track.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I'm just thinking about it right now. If I'm able to openly admit that I made a mistake, being vulnerable about it, everyone in my team will be comfortable to admit their mistakes too, and nobody will be hiding it or pointing fingers at someone else just to save their face, basically. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And they're going to want to be on your team. Well, look at your own life and career. Do you want to be around somebody who's going to point fingers at you? Is that the kind of leadership you want?
No,
No, because you can't be who you are and you don't
wow,
want to live in fear.
no, you don't want to. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to live out of fear or work out of fear because you will not be your best. You will not be at your best. Wow. So we're talking about this, and I'm thinking about a very humble, authentic leader. Like that's a very humble person. It takes humility to be vulnerable, to admit you're wrong, and to relate to get to know or understand your team members. So I just like to learn about the fine line between confidence and humility. Like how do you help leaders embody confidence and humility without tipping into arrogance or insecurity?
I think you need to have enough confidence to be able to go, yes, I've got this, but you're also going to deal with imposter syndrome where you feel like, who am I to do this? And a bit of panic, but why not you? And so I think being open and honest and admitting your mistakes is always going to keep you humble enough that you can still have the confidence to move forward, where arrogance is it's almost prideful. You want to take ownership for everybody else's greatness and you think you're better than everybody else. And that's where the big difference is thinking that, no, I'm not better than everybody else. We're all human. Than somebody who is, I'm phenomenal and boy, am I great. And those leaders typically are in leadership because of the fact that they radiate this exuberant personality, and they're very attractive to the individual that's hiring them. But at the end of the day, you're better off with somebody who is a little bit more laid back or an introvert who is strategic and is the strong silent type in the boardroom because they're going to understand their team.
Hmm.
And it's not all about them. It's about their team.
About your team, yeah, that's true. I like what you talked about that pointing out introverts. Basically, introverts could also be great leaders. Sometimes I think,
Yeah.
oh, it's very difficult for an introvert to be a great leader because they are not able to talk properly, or maybe they get exhausted by being in social gatherings, around people, and they have to operate all of a sudden with a lot of people, and that means their social battery is always going to get drained all the time. How would they function? Yeah, but they also
Yeah. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. And so, but they're much more strategic in their thought process, and they're trying to understand their teams, and they're very observant about what's going on around them and looking at the big picture. I'm not
yeah,
saying extroverts can't do that, but they're very people focused versus introverts are looking at the bigger picture. They're people focused to a certain degree, and they understand what's going to be most effective.
it's effective. Yeah, that's an advantage of being an introvert.
Yes,
Yes,
we
yes,
can be quiet
that's
and
true.
watch.
That's true. I think we observe better. Like introverts observe better.
Yeah,
They see more details in things than extroverts do.
Yeah, and they're reading body language, let me tell you.
Wow. I mean, Jennifer, for listeners who may feel like you talked about, imposter syndrome earlier, but a lot of listeners out there who are feeling unqualified or overlooked or unsure if they have what it takes to lead, what encouragement or wisdom would you leave them with?
I would say go and step out of your comfort zone and go for it
Mm.
because that's how you're going to learn. And I would recommend getting a coach or an advisor to walk beside you to help you because that's what I have one in my own life for different times, different purposes. And no great leader ever got to the top without having an advisor or a coach to support them. So go
Get
and,
it?
and invest in yourself. An organization may not invest in you, but take the time to invest in yourself because you're just as valuable and it will totally improve your career path because they're going to help you grow and support you as you are growing.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I think by picking up your book also, one could pick up on some tips, on some strategies, and has become a leader.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. They- Authentic leaders. I mean, for us to be authentic leaders, we have to pick up the book, read through the points, do the reflection every week. Maybe by the end of the year, by the time you're done with the whole book and all the reflection topics or prompts, then one will be ready and fit to say, yes, I know what it takes to be an authentic leader.
Well, and even if you're in the middle of it already and you're a leader, go pick up the
Mm,
book and start working on it because you can be amazing.
yeah,
I think there's no leader that is born. We make great leaders, and it's the work and effort that we put into ourselves to be that leader.
yeah, that's true. Earlier, I talked about everyone needing a coach at different areas of one's life, and also to be a great leader, you need to be a coach. And I know you also offer this coaching program, coaching services for people. So I just want to know, like, you have your book and other things that you do. Also, like, what's the best way to connect and work with you? For coaching, for maybe consultation, and everything that you do. What's the best way to connect with you?
Reach out to me at info@authenticleader.ca, or you can go through my website at authenticleader.ca, and more than happy to work with individuals anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter. We can do it. We can make it happen.
Can make it happen. I love that. So once again, the link to your website will be in the show notes of this episode. I encourage everyone out there to copy the link, click on the link, start reading through, the various resources that you have on your website, and also get the book also, Developing Authentic Leaders, and reaching out to Jennifer also for coaching programs or services. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It has been a wonderful blessing learning from you. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing strategies that we could make use of to become authentic leaders. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a real treat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.